First day of class, I'm taking roll. And there are always some students who come in late because it takes them a while to figure out where the classroom is. And Stephen came in after, he's early in the alphabetical order, so I'd gotten past him before he got there. And I looked up, I said, "Who are you?" And he said, "You can call me Stephen Bigelow." And I thought, this kid it's a good sense of confidence there. He's in an unfamiliar situation. He doesn't know me. He's got to size me up. He knows I'm going to size him up. And there was something about that confident way of speaking that suggested to me he's basically comfortable. I know that also Joan came over to our table a little earlier and said, "Stephen, have you got some remarks prepared?" And Stephen said, "No." I just get up and talk. And he's good at that. And underneath that nonchalance, I discovered, as I suspected from the get-go, there's a great deal of talent and a great ability to focus. Stephen took this course. This course attracts sometimes, and very much did this past fall, a lot of nerds. I mean, and I speak as a nerd myself. Lots of very well-schooled students who, I think I'm getting this right, Stephen? Some guys, a lot of talking, could bring in references from Plato and from German literature and from all kinds of, we even had a graduate student in the class. 3 guys from Amherst College came over who did not show off, I'm glad to say, but they were wonderful students, one from Peru, one from Mexico. But Stephen's work in the course was very, very good. I actually happen to have with me his final exam, which I found this morning. I'll give it back to you after. In this class, you have an option of writing a final paper or taking the exam. Almost every student chooses to write the final paper because they feel that's less pressure. They can work on it as long as they want to, when they want to. A few students, like 2 or 3 out of 30, calculate, I can handle my final piece of work for this course in 2 hours and then be done with it and not have to think about it again and not think, should I have worked on it longer? And that tells you a lot about this young man's sense of efficiency and, again, his confidence. He knew he was going to do okay. There were 2 questions on the exam, and in each of these questions, Stephen is comparing George Bernard Shaw's play Major Barbara, written in the first decade of the 20th century, with Arvind Adiga's novel The White Tiger, published in India in the first decade of the 21st century. And each one of these books has a very clever, independent, self-reliant character as its protagonist. That should tell you something too. And in the first essay in the exam, Stephen wrote a very good comparison of these 2 men, pointing out that each of them was in a situation in which he recognized that material comfort in the world was very possibly going to come at the cost of somebody else's losing that comfort, maybe even losing his life. This was not a heavy essay, mind you. It was not a heavy moralizing essay. It was a very intelligent understanding of the sophisticated complexity that Shaw makes in his work. This is a scholar. The second essay, I had invited students to get a little creative, and Stephen didn't need to be asked twice. I'll read just a little bit of it. He imagines a scene in which Andrew Undershaft from Shaw's play has lost his financial advisor and he needs a new one, and Shylock from Shakespeare's Merchant of Venice comes in. And it's Andrew Undershaft is sulking in his office, but only inside his head. He will never allow anyone else to witness his weakness. He is lost as whom to choose for his next CFO, when suddenly a short man with a resemblance to Al Pacino appears. Enters Shylock, genius moneylender of the 16th century Venice, traveling through time to be part of a venture he sees as a quick and easy way to make a few ducats. The above is, of course, a passage from my next New York Times best-selling short story, titled To Be Determined. Anyway, besides the wit, Steve and I agree we have fun with this course. Besides the wit, there's a very great sense of service. Stephen's got a background in basketball, although it wasn't his sport of choice here at UMass. And lots of UMass athletes make the pages of the local paper. But Stephen made the pages of the Daily Hampshire Gazette last fall in a way I don't think any other student has. This was not the sports pages, this was the community pages. And there was a story on volunteers from students at UMass and elsewhere who go to Northampton a couple days a week and do recreational sports like basketball with people who frankly don't have much of a life. They are in some cases street people or home, I think, in shelters. And here were some UMass students going over to play basketball with these guys who loved having a chance to just get out and shoot hoops. And there's a picture of one of these guys. He's about 40 years old, and he's probably wearing blue jeans and a t-shirt and sneakers. And he's high-fiving his teammate, who's a UMass student, who's just passed him the ball, and they've beaten the defender. The defender, lying on his back on the court, with his hands up like this and his knees up, grinning, is Stephen. Just having the greatest time, you know, not out to set any records, just enjoying being part of the sport. I went to an all-boys school a long way from here. Just had my 50th reunion there. It's called Montgomery Bell Academy in Nashville, Tennessee. Our most famous athletic product currently is R.A. Dickey, pitcher for the Toronto Blue Jays. Pardon?
He was tough the other day.
Yeah. And the school's actually coming up to watch him pitch against the Red Sox later this month. The school has a motto, which I think fits Stephen very well. Gentleman, scholar, athlete. And this is a young man who fits in and stands out.
Thank you all for recognizing Stephen. I don't believe, have had a male scholar athlete since the infamous Sean Bush, which most of you probably remember because he was quite the speaker himself. Very similar to Sean, Stephen is, like Professor Stifler said, full of personality, full of confidence. What a lot of folks don't know is that when Stephen came here, he was not a recruited athlete. He actually tried out and was cut his freshman year. So it tells you something about his determination. If you all knew his father, you would know where he gets the failure is not an option attitude, because his dad is his dad. I don't even know how to describe. Bob Bigelow is quite a character, and I figured that out when I met Stephen, because as a skinny little twerpy kid trying to hurdle, which fortunately our other good hurdler was of similar build and stature, he took a lot of crap. Man, Bigelow, we call him Biggs, we really harped on him as a young athlete who was just trying to get on the team. Hard worker. A young man who is very intelligent, but really studies his craft. Over the past 3 years that he's been running for us, he has progressively gotten better, but with patience. Has always been, coach, what do I need to do to get better? His first year, he had a rough year. He ran 15 low in the 110 hurdles. He came back his next year as a different person. Harder work ethic, lifted weights all summer. You know, unlike some people where I'm like, don't play too much basketball. He plays basketball during the summer. He plays tennis. He does all sorts of sports because he's an athletic kid. And over time, it's proved to me that his heart, his pride, and his athletic prowess is always on the path of how do I become better? And that is a true reflection of what we, Coach O'Brien and I, as a men's staff, want all of our young men to have that mentality. how can I continue to be better? And Stephen is well on that path. He's graduating this year, a very bright student. We're hoping, he has another year of eligibility. Maybe some grad school could come our way. We're keeping our fingers crossed. But as an athlete, I tell you, he really tries hard. And 2 years ago, we switched, and this is sort of not a huge issue, but for as a hurdler, some guys, when they're kind of twerpy and skinny, not necessarily powerful, they'll take 8 steps to the first hurdle. Well, we figured out that he needed to take 7, and it has been a 1.5 year, 2-year process to make that efficient. But when Stephen and I talked about that last year, I said, listen, it's going to take some time, but it's going to be the best thing for you. And as we've continued to work indoor and outdoor, and now this outdoor, we're really starting to see the benefits to the point where he is in a position, if he keeps continuing to run well, that he could qualify for the preliminary round of nationals, which, coming from a kid who got cut from the team 4 years ago, is quite a feat. So I'm proud to have worked with such a nice, smart, sometimes really cocky, but can take the knocks with the best of them. Okay, there's never a chip on his shoulder because he'll be the first one to knock it off before you do. It's been a pleasure to work with him, and he's been a great asset to the team, especially as a leader. As he's gotten older, he's become a great leader. He really shows our young guys what to do, not only showing them, but helping them. Try to do this, try to do that. Come on. He's really become a definite benefit to the team, and I appreciate him. His parents aren't here, but if they were here, I'd tell them I appreciated all the work that they've done making him and creating the young man that he is today. So I'll give you Coach O'Brien after this.
We didn't mean to make it a Bigelow relay here. And I certainly am glad I'm not the anchor man because Steve is going to do a better job than that. I know that Stephen, we've tried to get him to do a couple of things to develop his more impact on the team, and there's been times I've asked him to see if he'd be interested in running the 400-meter hurdles. And his confidence, that's so legendary, waned a little bit during that. Very intelligent person, as you know, and intelligently allowed it to wane upon one of my suggestions. And I really wasn't serious in trying to have him consider that, but I always am interested in the way he reacts or doesn't react to things. He basically reacts by not reacting. He gives you a grin, which you can see right now, usually without showing the white and pearlies, but a big grin. Walks slowly away, doesn't give you an argument whatsoever, doesn't even bother to explain it. It's kind of like, I'm really safe and pretty good where I am right now, and I just don't really need to take that journey. On the other side of the ledger, he volunteers for the leadoff leg in the 4x100 relay, which, as Coach said, blazing speed has not been his strong point. Perseverance, athletic ability, determination, great flexibility, willing to put a lot of work in, they've all been his strength. Speed isn't, but somehow when the gun goes off on a 4x100 relay where he has 3 other people counting on him, and he always does the 100-meter hurdles in a straight line, but in the leadoff leg of the 4x100, he's running around a turn, and for his long, lanky legs, that's not the best way for a person to sprint, but he finds his way around that track faster than all of the good sprinters who are running that leg. And he's a tennis player. He's done some basketball, of course, and somehow, without practicing baton handoffs, he sneaks that baton into no matter who it is on the second leg. If it's Pat Farnham, who's, is he 5 something? 5'4", yeah, 5 little. His hand, he finds him, and sometimes if it's Dion Arnaud running, who's 6'6", we match him up with Steven. He finds that hand on the first push, and he's got that real excellent ability to not be flustered with any new assignment, but just to find a way to make it work. And when Coach gave him that suggestion about increasing the length of his step to chop the number of strides he takes, that's a tough assignment, and it's a real tough assignment in your senior year, or junior year, to give you two. It's something he had probably hurdled one way for 4 years, and we're going to ask him to do it going into his junior year, where he was hoping to make some hay. And he stuck with it for 3 or 4 meets until he made it happen, and made it happen without a complaint, without a kick of his bag because it didn't work, without slamming the spikes down. I knew this wouldn't work. He just walks away, puts his mind to it, and comes back. So he's a picture of silent confidence, as Professor Stifler said, and at the same time, burning determination and a laid-back attitude somehow with all of that going on inside him. So he has been a pleasure to work with. He is, as Coach David said, second fastest hurdler in school history, which covers a lot of hurdlers and a lot of good ones. And he deserves all of the accolades that he has gotten these past 2 years. Atlantic 10 Awards, there are people who study all year long for years and years and years, and Steve is one of those guys who, I know there's a lot inside, but he makes sure he gets the best out of it, not just good enough. So I really feel as though when the speed that he shows in the first leadoff leg of the 4x100 is roughly equivalent that the speed he shows when I announce sometime when we're getting off the bus that I'm ready to hand out the meal money, or the meal ducats, as it's currently called. I didn't realize we changed currency, but either way, number one, he gets there first. And like I said, he has good hands with that baton, and he never drops a dollar bill. Never drops a dollar bill. So I'm hoping that someone can replace him in the leadoff leg next year with a 4x1, but hopefully no one can replace him in picking up those meal ducats, because maybe I'll come out a dollar or so ahead. But Stephen deserves everything that he's received. He's worked real hard for it. We're proud to have him part of the program, and we want to thank him very much.
How's it going? Steve Bigelow. Thank you for the committee for honoring me with this. Appreciate the speeches. It's going to be tough to follow all three, though. The Bigelow relay. I'm the anchor leg now, not the leadoff. Yeah, so as pretty much, I was never really into track in high school. I got cut. I always loved tennis, loved basketball, loved soccer, but I got cut from the tennis team spring season of my freshman year. My dad was like, well, you got to run track. And I was like, track? You serious? And, I hated it. Hated it. It was the worst. So I ran outdoor track for 4 years, pretty much just to get faster for soccer in the fall, and then be a better athlete for basketball in the winter. But I guess I was not as good at those sports as I thought I was, because come senior year, I wasn't playing basketball anymore. And I was like all right at soccer, but I was kind of just a sub, and they'd throw me in to run up and down the sidelines because I was fast. So I chose to come to UMass. I applied to UMass, UConn, UNH, and UDelaware. Kind of seemed an easy choice to come to UMass, being from Massachusetts. And I had talked to the coaches about joining the team. I didn't know if I really wanted to do it yet, but either way, orientation, I met them, and they said, yeah, you can come try out and whatnot. And as Coach Jackson mentioned, did not go well. Did not go well. It was not what I expected at all. My high school track program was not too serious, kind of laid back. So I think it was the first day of practice we came in, and it was like, let's do 10 200s at 32 or whatever, which now doesn't seem that daunting, but as a freshman who's really never done a workout in his life, it was terrible. It was so bad. I think I told him I was hurt or something, so I could only run 8. Who knows? But yeah, so I did stay on the team, and I didn't make the winter roster, which I expected, but then I was kind of hurt when I didn't make outdoor roster, because I had been there the whole year. To the point, so it kind of turned me off to the point where I almost transferred. I had good grades, so I was going to transfer to Tufts University, actually, closer to home. My mom works there, would have had a little tuition break. But there was something inside. I had to come back here and prove that I was worth something. And based on the seniors and the juniors who were here when I was a freshman, all really smart kids, all really determined kids. Just the UMass track and field history, the alumni history in general cross country it's crazy. So many big names in a ton of places. So I felt like I could be one of those people, and I want to come back. So I came back, tried out again in the fall. Yeah, did some work over the summer, not necessarily running on the track, but like I said, playing basketball, playing tennis, just staying active, lifting weights. And I was a lot better, a lot faster, a lot stronger. But I also came back with an attitude, a new attitude, because freshman year was kind of just like but if I sail through this, maybe I'll make the team. But sophomore year was like, I'm going to make this team. And no matter what I do, I'm going to be determined to be on the indoor roster. And I made it. The fall was tough, but it all worked out well. And the academic part, it all kind of just fell into place. I'd never really done too well in school. I wasn't dumb by any means, but I was never a great student. But Eisenberg had great professors and whatnot. I just and playing a sport, being a student athlete, just gave me that extra level of discipline. People are always asking, like, oh, how do you find the time to be an athlete and whatnot? And I kind of found it the opposite. Being an athlete kind of gives you the right discipline to manage your time well and manage your academics and whatnot. At the same time, as if Melissa was still here, she talked about sacrifice, academics, athletics, and social life. You pick two. I didn't find that at all. I have great social life. I have great friends who I met sophomore year. Actually, my best friend freshman year transferred. That was another reason I was going to transfer. But I have great best friends now. I've never felt that I had to pick two. I've had so much fun here the whole time, while also having great athletic and academic career, which really I'm ready to leave. But on June 1st, the day after my lease ends, I'm going to want to come back. It's gonna be tough. But junior, senior year, kind of just after sophomore year, they all kind of just fell into place, and here I am with 3 people to represent me, great speeches, and getting this award, which, to be honest, is probably the coolest honor I've ever received in my life, and especially at UMass. So thank you.